This is CBC Vancouver News.
Cold, hard cash.
Financial incentives are one part of the package of solutions, but you have to think about non-financial incentives.
With a nursing shortage in the thousands, the province is going to new heights to draw staff to remote parts of BC. Plus, desperate times, desperate measures.
It's almost a full-time job looking for a place. I've been pretty stressed and worried.
The extremes would-be renters are going to in search of a place they can afford to live. Also, it's that time of year.
I'm all sniffly today.
Itchy eye and it hurts.
It's definitely picked up in the last week or two.
The early spring weather means an early start to allergy season as well. Hi, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. It's a big offer to nurses. Move to a remote part of BC and make some big cash. The province says as of April 1st, signing bonuses will bring much needed help to the struggling healthcare sector in rural areas. But as Belle Purée reports, critics say it's going to take a lot more than money to fix the crisis.
Big skies and sprawling vistas. BC's Northwest is remote and rural. In healthcare, that's a challenge.
Not only are we having to try and keep things safe, sometimes things get a little bit hairy.
Christina Rogers is a nurse in Terrace, where staff shortages are a constant problem.
You are a general, so you're not only just taking care of one area of your specialty, you are doing everything. I think everybody deserves an incentive to go work in a place that's lacking.
Starting April 1st, the BC government will offer perks, as much as $30,000 for nurses who agree to work 2 years in the north and as much as $20,000 in other remote areas. The province hopes that the incentives will boost recruiting efforts outside of metropolitan areas. The bonuses are a one-time offer. In nursing schools, the number of students interested in rural work is no more than a handful. Instructors say incentives have to be more than money.
Most of the nurses who work in rural actually are within 1 to 4 years of graduating. So they are very new nurses. They need support. But I think we need a nursing virtual support that can then also, they can talk to a nurse who's, doing this on a regular basis. So how do I do this? And being there when they need them for however long they need them.
Incentives are nothing new. In the early 1990s, BC nurses were being recruited by the United States.
They were even offering you a car and a 1-year mortgage on a house to go to the U.S.
For some, financial incentives are only a Band-Aid solution.
Is it just whitewashing the problems and just saying that we're doing something?
This public policy expert says rural recruitment of nurses is an international problem.
What the BC government is doing in offering incentives for nurses to live and work in those locations is absolutely in line with what governments around the world have done.
In Terrace, Christina Rogers is from here, trained here, and has worked here for 6 years.
At, say, 30 grand for someone to come here, that is a great start for them. As a person who has been here working the whole time and watching people coming and going and still always suffering with short staffing, I would love an incentive to stay.
It's estimated across the province, BC is short 6,000 nurses. Belle Purée, CBC News, Vancouver.
Vancouver police are putting out a public warning after a woman was attacked by a stranger in Stanley Park yesterday morning. The woman in her 50s was on Lee's Trail just north of Lost Lagoon when she was sexually assaulted by a man. Officers say they conducted extensive searches of the park but haven't been able to find him. They've got extra patrols out today, including on the trails.
To have a violent crime occur in Stanley Park in the middle of the day is frightening and concerning for a lot of people. We want people to know that we're taking this very seriously. We're doing everything that we can to investigate, but also to provide some reassurance to the public. And part of that is increasing our police presence there.
The suspect is described as a dark-skinned man in his 20s, about 5'7". He was wearing a zip-up jacket with a checkered pattern on the front. Anyone with information that could help in the investigation is asked to contact police. A minor league hockey player has been suspended for his role in an altercation that left the other team's goalie unresponsive on the ice. In late January, Richmond Sockeyes defenseman Ethan Grisham was involved in a fight. Video shows him with his arms around the goaltender's upper body for roughly 20 seconds. When Grisham lets go, the other player slumps to the ground and falls on the ice. The goalie has since been medically cleared to play, and Grisham has been suspended by the league now for 31 games. Well, rent and mortgage interest costs are primary drivers of Canada's inflation. Here in BC, renters face the highest rates in the country. And for some, the hunt for a place to live has turned into a second job. Yvette Brand is hearing some stories of desperation.
In this freezer, I believe we have 7 or 6 of them now.
Hudson and Jackson Forsyth Beck sold pickles and produce they grew in the front yard of the rental home that they're now about to lose. Their family has been evicted.
We eventually had a flow of customers, and they just kept coming and coming. We just got bigger and bigger.
If anybody has any solutions.
Their dad posted a video begging for freezer space to save all this food while he hunts for a new family home.
It's almost a full-time job looking for a place. We don't have the room to store it. What are we going to do?
Dozens of applications later, he's left in line with 100 others to pay double or triple his current rent.
I've been pretty stressed and worried.
Housing experts say this family isn't alone. In the past 2 years in Canada, rent rose an average of $384 a month. Metro Vancouver had the country's highest average monthly rent for a one-bedroom in February at $2,653.
It breaks my heart to hear, I have to advertise to see if someone will welcome me into their rental and let me pay an exorbitant amount of money for a one-bedroom. A younger demographic is working hard, and their hard work isn't paying off like it used to.
People desperate to find rentals are posting pleas.
You need to stand out of the crowd. I just want to try different ways to get attraction, like a spotlight on us.
It starts to make a lot
Skyrocketing rental rates don't help.
The competition is stiff. There's a lot of competition.
The irony isn't lost on this custom home builder that he's creating homes and can't even find a rental he can afford.
You know, sometimes I struggle with what I'm doing for work. Am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? But, you know, you have to make money to survive.
A moment of peace before it's back to the grind of finding shelter. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC's Auditor General says 2 of the province's harm reduction programs have fallen short and need to be revamped. Michael Pickup says the overdose prevention program has not been sufficient with regards to site selection, staffing, and service standards. And he says the Safer Supply program lacks collaboration between stakeholders, public reporting, and limits of available drugs.
His advice is welcome to us in terms of any way we can improve the program, ensure that we're providing information to the public about why we're doing this, and to depoliticize the effort to save lives.
The Auditor General's report includes recommendations for improving both systems, which the province says it will implement. Parks Canada has updated its plan to combat whirling disease prevention. It's a disease that's very difficult to eradicate. The disease affects fish. It has a 90% mortality rate in fry and is incurable. To curb the risk of further spread, all bodies of water in Yoho and Kootenay National Parks are closed to watercraft and angling until March 25th of next year. Those who don't abide by the closures could face steep fines.
Our aquatic invasive species teams will have staff that will be out on the landscape checking compliance with these new measures. And if there are any convictions, there is a possibility of a fine of up to $25,000 under the Canada National Parks Act.
Watercraft can pick up sediment, plant fragments, and mud, and then transfer the disease between lakes. The closures are meant to help protect several trout species and kokanee salmon. Parks Canada says it'll continue to conduct sampling and monitor the effectiveness of the closures. This week's warm weather has flowers blooming, sunbathers basking, and allergy sufferers sneezing. Zara Premji now on some advice on how to combat this year's early arrival of allergy season.
Achoo! That's an all too familiar allergy season sound that's been ringing through Metro Vancouver a little bit early this year.
I just sneeze.
Kind of itchy eyes, sneezing, lots of sneezing, hey?
Itchy eye and it hurts.
I'm all sniffly today, and I blow my nose many, many times this morning.
Well, sniffly.
For Sherry Young, it's all about how she gears up for the allergy season, early or not.
I mean, it's really annoying, but I guess it's like inevitable, so it kind of just, happens. But like reacting, my best friend, I love that so much.
And the facts back Sherry up. The season has arrived early, according to aerobiology research labs that have been monitoring pollen in Canada for 30 years. The group has a monitoring station in Vancouver that shows this year did see an early start to the season with pollen in the air in late January, and 39 times more pollen circulating right now than this time last year.
It's definitely picked up in the last week or two, just with the warming weather and a lot higher pollen count being outside, and so you're getting a lot more people coming in and questioning or asking about certain allergy products that they might want to use.
Pharmacists say if you're looking for a solution, there are many ways to tackle this pollen push.
Keep all the windows and doors closed. Whenever you get home, it's usually a good idea to kind of change clothes, have a shower, get all that pollen off you.
And your local pharmacist can now guide you through allergies and even prescribe for them. But if that's not enough, some of the British Columbians facing it firsthand share their tricks.
My mom, she gets a warm towel and puts it on my face.
I get out early and I walk before everything kind of gets stirred up.
I think just drink a lot of water and don't go outdoor when the cherry blossoms are going.
If you're like going to like a picnic or something, maybe like bring a towel so you're not just like sitting on the grass.
But there's consensus among many of these allergy sufferers.
Or the rest of the country is still under snow, right? So we're lucky to have the cherry blossoms and everything going. That it's part of being a Vancouverite and living in Vancouver.
It is a beautiful place to live in. Love the trees, the nature's so pretty. So I guess also I do really agree with that because it's like, it is really beautiful. So I like love the place I live.
And it's not all sneezing and irritated eyes. For the allergy prone, there could be some reprieve in sight. The experts at the Aerobiology Research Lab say this next week in Vancouver will see pollen dropping from very high to just high until the weekend, where it's expected to drop to moderate when the weather cools off again. But the pollen is here to stay for the season. So as the allergy prone say, stay inside or go forth armed with tissues. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
It is that time of year when cameras come out as many of the city's trees burst into color. Yes, it's cherry blossom season. Our Michelle Gomez hit the streets to ask Vancouverites what makes the delicate flowers so special to them.
With the warm weather, the cherry blossoms have come out in Vancouver, unofficially marking the start of spring. Today, we're asking Vancouverites what they think about it.
It's really nice. It's just like a way to tell the seasons are changing, right?
They look beautiful and they have a very nice aroma actually, so I like the way they smell.
I love the color. I love it against the blue sky. And yeah, it's joyful.
I think it just adds a lot of color, especially after the rainy season, and just feels like excitement.
Well, I think everyone's just excited that spring's finally on the doorstep here, and yeah, excited for the outdoors and getting into summer.
It's nice to want to be outside, you know?
They just look fragile, floating up there with a blue background. I love that. When my mom was alive, I used to drive through the neighborhoods to show her. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a nice memory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She loved it. She was from Alberta, so they don't have that there, you know? Not the same that we do.
They're magnificent. Yeah.
What do you love about them?
Well, they're colorful and dynamic.
I love this time. It's the best time in the year.
What do you think?
He likes them. He likes to eat them.
It's like magic. I have pictures a lot. I never tired about to take pictures. Yeah, I live here in the neighborhood. It's fantastic.
Well, still ahead, it is spring break, meaning travel for some families. But with hotels, flights, and activities, that travel can add up quickly. After the break, we'll look at how you can still get away without breaking the bank. And thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. BC certainly isn't the only province short on family doctors. In Quebec, physicians are speaking out against the amount of time they have to spend doing insurance paperwork. As the CBC's Paula Dayan-Perez reports, doctors say that is precious time they should be spending with patients instead.
Piles and piles of paperwork. Quebec doctors say hundreds of patients visit them a week, not for immediate medical care. but to get referrals and fill out insurance forms.
This general concept of documentation and the time that it takes to do it is overwhelming in healthcare. It's overwhelming. It's burning people out.
Doctors say the variety of forms makes paperwork even more time-consuming. There's government forms, and there are also private insurance companies that request a doctor's reference before it can cover the cost of paramedical care, like massage therapy.
Something that is part of their collective insurance that they pay for, but that some insurance company do ask providers to provide a medical reason on why they should benefit from that service they pay for.
The association representing all private insurance companies across the country says they advise group insurance plans not to require a doctor's note for paramedical services. The president of the association says most of the time companies do follow their recommendations, but sometimes employers or unions use reference requirements as a way to control costs.
So for instance, if you need a reference to cover the cost of a massotherapist, you might not go as frequently as you would without the references.
The association says one of the ways it's helping to relieve the pressure on doctors is by standardizing forms for all private insurance companies. Now it's up to the province to make them more easily available electronically. The health minister says there's new funding in the budget for that.
Moi, je me donne quelques mois pour être capable de faire ça, là. Pas plus long que ça. Et c'est pour ça que je t'ai encouragé, c'est de dire maintenant on a l'argent pour faire le virage numérique. C'est ça que le ministre Girard nous a donné cette semaine.
In a statement, the health ministry says it's already cut down on follow-up appointments when it comes to public insurance. It also says it has removed a previously required form. The province says it's a first step. Paula Perez, CBC News, Montreal.
Well, spring break is here for many British Columbians, and some are still thinking about getting away. But with everything costing a little bit more these days, the price of flights and hotels can add up pretty quickly. So joining me to talk about saving some money while traveling is money coach and podcaster Farah Turcotte. Farah, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first off, where do you recommend people go if they are on a budget? Presumably that would mean maybe domestically within Canada or even within BC, but are there any international travel deals out there right now?
Absolutely. What's great about looking internationally is that Canadian dollar can go a lot further for you when you're traveling. So I really recommend looking at places like YVR Deals, which is a Facebook group.
Love that group. I'm on it.
They send you email notifications. One that popped up for me today is actually going to Bangkok, Thailand for under $1,000 round trip. So definitely one of those to check out as well, and lots of Aeroplan rewards deals going on right now.
Okay, good to know it's not too late.
No.
Some airlines we know have hiked the prices when we talk about checked baggage fees. It seems like everything now, the base airfare is cheap, but all of those add-ons add up quite quickly. How do you save on those in-transit costs? Do you have any tips on that?
Well, there are a lot of credit cards, also travel credit cards that actually cover the cost of checked baggage, which is great. So definitely look into those. And also some budget airlines as well are even charging for carry-on. So make sure you're reading the fine print before you're booking those flights, because that could add up very quickly for a large group or family. And so make sure you get those credit cards that have those ability to cover the cost of baggage, and pack light, roll everything you can up and travel light for sure.
Carry-ons are our friends. I've learned that much.
Yes.
Choosing accommodation can be a struggle, and I know you talked about traveling in large groups if you've got a big family or going with friends. What should people look for when you are traveling with a group?
Well, starting off, definitely setting expectations from the get-go. Everyone should be as honest and transparent as they can about what their expectations are, what their budgets are, what they are expecting. And when traveling together as a group, sometimes it's actually great to book directly with the hotel you plan on staying at. Sometimes they have promotions or discounts that aren't offered through travel websites like Expedia, for example. And also looking for accommodation that may have kitchenettes, kitchens. That way you could save costs on groceries together, and making sure that we're having a travel sinking fund prepared ahead of time so that we can allocate funds on an ongoing basis, as opposed to worrying about the costs right up until the point of the trip when you're scrambling and then you're panicking. Where is the money going to come from right before? So start early.
Yeah, especially when there are a lot of people involved, the sooner the better.
Yes.
Dining out, of course, this can be one of the biggest costs. You get there and you're all excited to try some local cuisine, but how do you recommend saving money on meals?
Well, I think one thing I would recommend is to actually venture outside of the tourist zones, asking locals where they recommend to eat. I will use Las Vegas as an example. Eating on the Strip, you'll find that the prices on the Strip differ significantly when you move towards the local areas more. And also, again, planning ahead. If you can, I would recommend breaking up your increments of payments so that you have only your transportation and food costs to worry about when you're actually on the trip, by having a travel fund ahead of time. And making sure you look out for those local happy hours, picking up groceries, mixing a little bit of eating out, and making some meals so that you can alleviate some of the costs.
No doubt. Well, you've given me the travel edge, so thank you so much for all of your tips today. That's Farah Turcotte, money coach and podcaster. Well, here's a live shot of Whistler Olympic Plaza. This summer-like weather is about to be pushed out by some cooler, wetter weather. Your 5-day forecast is on the way next.
I am pleased to introduce Bill 23.
The Manitoba government says it doesn't want convicted sex offenders to be able to hide behind a new identity and are proposing a bill banning them from being able to legally change their name.
To keep Manitobans safe, we're ensuring that Manitoba does not become a haven for offenders to live in order to change their name.
But advocates who work with rehabilitated offenders call it a step back for restorative justice.
This would mean then that we want to label and stigmatize people, and we want to keep them in that place for the rest of their lives.
Community Justice Initiative says further punishing someone doesn't equate to holding them responsible and isn't the deterrent many think it is.
Real accountability is accepting responsibility for what you've done, coming to terms with the true impact of the harm that you've caused, and doing things in the interest of making that right.
There are more than 3,200 registered sex offenders in Manitoba. 2/3 are linked to child sex crimes. Approximately 150 people are added to the registry in Manitoba each year. In the past 3 years, only 4 have changed their name. They must provide a name, address, passport, and other details to RCMP yearly. Any changes must be reported within 7 days. Former names remain in the database.
They're already being held accountable in a way that we often don't for other types of crimes.
The Criminal Defense Lawyers Association of Manitoba questions the motive behind the bill.
What is the end goal? Is it to keep society safer, or is it to stigmatize people who have already paid their debt to society or prevent them from escaping that stigma? I don't know what that's helping.
Groups that work to reintegrate convicts into society say the best way to stop them from reoffending is keeping them connected.
One of the most important criteria for successful reintegration is to allow these individuals to, get re-involved with their families, get employment.
They say the province should be focusing on wraparound supports for people when they get out of jail instead of this proposed legislation.
I would rather know that the individual is out there being worked with, being supervised in a program like ours, rather than going underground and basically just disappearing.
Alberta and Saskatchewan are the only 2 provinces with similar legislation in place, although it's being proposed in Ontario and Newfoundland as well. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We're sharing really important information with the public, and I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Experience the choral spectacle of the season and celebrate Vancouver's thriving singing community at Corleone's annual singing festival, The Big Roar, April 13th. For tickets and information, visit corleone.org and never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Our Darius Madavi is here with a look at the forecast. And Darius, we can officially say right now it is spring.
It is officially spring, and what is the first full day of spring going to bring us tomorrow? Well, it's a little bit dreary, but officially the beginning of spring did start just a couple hours ago. 8:06 p.m. our time is when the sun was shining directly over the equator, which is the official definition of the spring equinox and the beginning of the season. So also happy Nowruz to those who celebrate. Happy Persian New Year. And as we look forward to the next week or so, we're going to see bit of wintry weather returning. It's not going to be the beautiful springy, summery stuff that we have seen. A little bit of precipitation starting to be scattered across the southern parts of the province today and into overnight tonight and into tomorrow. We're going to see a little bit of precipitation for some of the central parts of BC, but that quickly migrates further south, and then into the end of this week, possibly the weekend, we're going to see just some scattered showers and flurries throughout the southern parts of BC. As that ridge of high pressure breaks down, we will see temperatures start to drop in the south and western parts of the province because we don't have that locking in the heat for us anymore, locking in that sunshine. Instead, even though the cold front that's really making temperatures drop down in the north and for eastern parts of the province, that's not going to make its way down here. So don't expect a significant drop, but just return to seasonal. What we're going to see over here, though, is a more significant drop in those temperatures. So be prepared for that as well if you are in those parts of the province. But generally speaking, we're just returning to where temperatures would normally be this time of year, with the exceptions of a few parts where it is a little bit colder than usual. But even there, we'll see those start to come up into next week. So not too long sticking with those cooler temperatures. Now, if you look at our conditions for tomorrow, we do see quite a bit of activity here, but this is all just really a chance of showers. It's hard to say where exactly that will turn up, but I'd say the highest chance probably around these parts of central BC, especially around Prince George, maybe some flurries there, but generally speaking, not too active. But if we do look at our 5-day forecast for here in Metro Vancouver, we see another warmer day tomorrow as we still have a little bit of sunshine possible, and we'll see a little bit warmer in the valley and inland sections. But generally speaking, just showers for the time ahead and lots of cloud.
Well, tomorrow at least we can have the sunglasses and the umbrella on standby just in case. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thanks, Tanya.
And we end on a sad note. BC has lost a local news legend. Longtime radio reporter George Garrett has died. He worked at CKNW for 43 years, breaking countless stories, and was one of the first reporters on the scene of the deadly collapse of the Second Narrows Bridge in 1958.
And I think I was the only reporter in town, and don't say that immodestly, but they trust me to tell me something and to not give them away. So I'm probably one of the few reporters who would be able to tell the story of the rank and file members of the department.
Garrett was a mentor to many journalists in BC. A scholarship was set up in his name for aspiring reporters. George Garrett had cancer and died peacefully in hospice in Surrey last night. He was 89 years old. And that is your late news for this Tuesday, March 19th. For news anytime, anywhere, you can download the free CBC News app, and you can always find us online. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.